Hey, welcome back guys, and today I want to talk about if you guys should actually be farming this side story event over hunts. Now, as you guys know, this side story event is kind of locked behind having Summer Luluka imprints because the more imprints you have, the more easier the boss is by a large margin. And also because of the fact that if you have more of the artifact copies limit breaked, you'll actually get more currency, which can in turn be used in the mileage store for epic equipment. Also keep in mind the bosses in this side story will actually drop epic equipment only, reforged mats from every hunt, and also the currency to actually buy those equipment. Now for this week, the only equipment that will be dropping is going to be from the sets here. So you can see from penetration, counter, and resist. Now the best set from this obviously will be penetration and counter. Resist is used somewhat on like soul weavers and some knights, but counter and penetration are going to be the most used. In 2 weeks guys, the side story will change to Lethe's side story boss, and for that side story it will drop speed set as one of the 3 sets, meaning that, you know, in 2 weeks the side story will be a lot better to farm because of the fact that speed set's really good. Now honestly, I think this event is worth farming if you are in the late game and you are into PvP. Now penetration set and counter set are only going to really be used for PvP. So actually, if you're not really into PvP, not being able to farm this is not that big of a deal because those sets are mostly only going to be used in PvP really. And I only think that this is worth farming if you can farm level 4 consistently. Now level 4 is pretty hard to farm without Summer Luluka, but you can actually do it if you have Rowana instead as your lead and you have specific units. If not, it's still going to be very hard. If you do not have Rowana or Summer Luluka, it is pretty impossible to actually farm this. Now, some people are asking if level 3 is worth farming or not. So this is where it becomes a little bit more tricky. So what are the pros of this event if you're farming it? So the pros are that it only drops epic gear, which is going to be late game gear, right? It is also going to drop a lot of reforged mats, although it's random. And it's also going to give you currency, which you can actually use to exchange for only epic gear, which is a huge plus side, and you actually get to choose the set, right? So if you're crafting from the Hunt Steel Workshop, you'll be able to get one of 3 random sets, but in this event, you could choose these sets. So if you're really lacking on penetration sets, you can focus everything on penetration and get a ton of penetration sets. However, keep in mind, because these sets are only used in PvP, if you're new to the game, you're going to not really use these sets for a long while. Also keep in mind guys, hunts will actually drop rare, heroic, and epic pieces, which you guys might think is a bad thing, but for newer players guys, like most of your good gear is going to actually be purple gear. So if you actually look at my account and go all the way down at my gear, you're going to see that the majority of the good gear, the gears that I have, or at least more than half, are going to be purple for the most part. So you can see like right here, I have so many purple gears that are plus 90 here. And for the most part in the early game, especially, a lot of your good gears will be purple. The only time where you're only going to use epic gear is in the late game once you get to PvP and like World Arena and RTA and you're min-maxing. Then most of your gear here will actually end up being red. So if you're new to the game, still working on your PvE teams, then what I recommend actually is to not really worry about the event too much because you're actually missing out on the speed set pieces, which are used on most of your PvE teams, and also you're missing out on good heroic pieces. You'll actually get overall more pieces from Hunt than the side story. The only reason why people are saying that, oh, the side story is so strong to farm is because it only drops epic gear, which will only matter to late game players. So if you're new to the game, it might feel really bad that you can't participate in this event, and I do agree that they shouldn't have done this in the first place, but I'm just saying this so you guys actually don't waste energy on this hopeless event. I'm saying this event's already, I don't want to demonetize, this event's already pretty screwed up, so what you actually want to do is you actually are going to want to, instead of farming level 3, or spending 15-20 minutes farming level 4, I would just farm Hunt to not give yourself a headache over it, because sure, this event is very good for whales, but in the long run, it will be better, especially if you're still making your PvE teams to farm Wyvern 13. So yeah, I don't really appreciate how Smilegate tackled this entire side story, but it's just best to make the best of a worse situation. So yeah, just don't waste all of your energy on this side story event if you are new to the game, and you know, you're not going to really get that much benefit unless you're farming level 4 anyways and you actually have, you know, a couple copies of the artifact. That's when this event becomes ridiculously OP. But if you're not at that point, you know, there's not really a point to just, you know, sit there and farm this event. I would just do Hunt instead and get some rewards there, because heroic gear is going to be the majority of your gear in the mid, and even in the late game, heroic gear is very good. It's only late game, like super late game, when you're in RTA, where epic gear becomes your only source of gear. Purple or heroic gear will actually be your best friend for actually speed chasing on pieces to get high speed until you hit the super late game. Like if we look at some of my purple pieces here, like this is my fastest chest. Like my helmet here, 22 speeds purple, right? There's just so many examples of just very high speed purple pieces. 20 speed on the sword. Like obviously there's going to be some red pieces as well, but you're going to see consistently if you want at least 15 speed on pieces, or even like 16, 17, 18 after Reforge, purple pieces will be your best bet because they roll very easily into speed. Now that's not to say red pieces aren't good, it's just like early game, you're going to use a lot more purple pieces on your speed contesting units. So for me, example, like you can see I have so many purple pieces that rolled pretty well into speed, and I'm using a lot. I don't know why my mid has blue shoes. I have to change that, but besides the point. So yeah, just to summarize, guys, if you're not farming level 4 consistently, or even level 3 at a very fast speed, then I would recommend just skipping out on the event and just farming your hunts, because it's going to waste a lot of your time, and it's not that much of an increase unless you have a lot of the artifacts. So if you do have this artifact at like +3 limit break or higher and getting 30%, I would farm this regardless of it being slow. Also, if you're new to the game, I would recommend not farming this event because the sets aren't that great for you right now. I would just consider waiting until the Leth event, until Lethe's event, because you'll be able to get speed set from there. That's when you want to go pretty ham on your bookmarks and your sky stones on the unit and artifact if this same lead hero thing is in effect. Otherwise, you can just farm hunts. It'll be better for you because Wyvern will give you speed set, and honestly, even if you're into the late game and you're struggling with this event, it might not be worth your sanity. So yeah, really up to you. This is a pretty crappy event in my opinion, but not really much we can do except complain to Smilegate more. So yeah, I've been talking to Smilegate a lot about this and saying that I've not been happy either. So I'm on your guys' side. Let's hope that the next event is better, and let's hope they give us more compensation.
How could you make me wait this long? Look at me! I love floating on the ocean. Well, come on in already. Well, come on in already.